Welcome, everybody, to another masterclass here at A Mind for All Seasons. And today we're talking about epigenetics in the brain. You probably are well aware that genetics has a lot to do with our health outcomes, but did you know that it only affects about 25% of our outcomes? The other 75% is related to epigenetic factors, and the knowledge about epigenetics has exploded over the last several years. And right at the forefront of knowledge of epigenetics and how we can leverage it to have better health span, better outcomes is our guest today, Maricel Rocha. Maricel has a master's in biotechnology, and she spent many years doing cancer research at the bench before deciding that there would be something a little bit more fulfilling in helping individuals and working with them to change epigenetic factors so that they could improve their health spans. She operates a company called Younger Longer, and I'm really excited that she's agreed to come and present about epigenetics with us today. Maricel, I'm sure there's a lot that I've left out of that, so I'll let you kind of add to other background if you want to, but we're excited to learn from you, and I'll hand it off to you for the next little while, and then I hope everyone that's participating today will think of questions that you might want to ask Maricel so that when we get to the Q&A, we can have some great discussion about that.
Well, thank you so very much, Eric. It's my pleasure to be here. I'm super excited to share with your audience. And you did amazing, so thank you for the introduction as well. Yeah, this accent is from Argentina, and I'm happy. I'm going to share with you. I don't want to have like a lecture mode slide. So I would say if in any moment you would like to ask me any questions, I would love that. So feel free to interrupt me. So, as Eric just mentioned, just 25% of our health correlates with genetics, things that we cannot change. But the other 75 is what we have power to change and influence. So that's why this presentation today is to bring awareness on that power, that 75% that we can still do things so that we can create the health that we want. Three main things that I will cover today is what are a few of functional testing that we can do today, available for every person, that can bring us data that we can and put together so that we can personalize a plan for action. Then the other takeaway will be how stress, metabolism, microbiome, and mindset actually shape how we age in our brain. And the third takeaway is like daily choices. I want you to leave this conversation today absolutely trusting in daily choices and how they can help you build a healthy 100. I want to start my presentation with introducing you to my mom. So the lady you see here, she is in her 80s. And although she had a healthy life in terms of nutrition, exercise. She actually was a very stressed person, anxious person. She didn't learn how to manage worry. So first, when I was little, I remember missing her because she was working all the time. And now that she's not working anymore, she's not there again because she has dementia. So that prompted me to avoid being the absent mom to my own daughters. So you see here in this picture, these are my three teenager daughters. And I want to be 30 years from now, I want to be that mom who will be always present for them. So that's why I did in my whole academic journey. First, I wanted to find solutions for cancer. And throughout all my years of research, I actually couldn't find a cure, but now I know how to prevent, and not just cancer, but also dementia and other chronic diseases. So now I will introduce you the concept of epigenetics. So I want you to think that like a piano. Let's say you have a piano, and the keyboards of that piano is your genetic blueprint. It's something that you got from mom, from dad, and it's there. And rarely it will change. So that part of you is fixed. But then you have the pianist. That's you. So you create melodies, you create music with your epigenetics. Epi means above. It's actually above the keys, your hands that are playing or creating music. So the outcome in your health is actually the consequence of how well you play your piano. Your health is not determined by the genes that you have. It's actually a consequence of the choices that you make in your lifestyle. So if there's a key that is kind of defective, you can play around literally to still create a melody that sounds great. But at the same time, that key that is not efficient won't interfere with the melody that you are creating. So what is DNA methylation? DNA methylation is just one out of many ways that we regulate the gene expression, meaning keeping bad genes silent or activating genes that are good for us. So who decides that? Are the control of our gene expression. So DNA methylation is just one of them. And in this specific way, means the addition of a tag at a molecular level inside our cells. There's a nucleus, you will remember this, and inside there's the DNA. So DNA is constantly there, available to be read, to be informed and active. But this process of DNA methylation happens in many important areas of a gene, making it not accessible for the enzymes that read the gene. So in other words, it's like a dimmer. It's like if it contains a lot of DNA methylation tags, then the gene is not going to be expressed or active. Oh, the other thing that is really important from these slides, what I wanted to share here, is that the sequence of the DNA will stay the same, but the tags, what it tells the genes, go and express or stay dormant, is reversible. And that is the main thing that I want you to understand from the epigenetic point of view. We can control the expression of our genes through lifestyle. So what are those components? Food, this is one of the main switches. Through food, we can activate or silencing genes. Movement through exercise, quality of sleep, things that are in our environment, toxins, and also stress, the way we cope with stress or emotional stress. So the genome provides the fixed hardware. This is something that stay the same. But the epigenome operates as a dynamic software. The methyl tags silence or read genes, and daily inputs add or remove those tags. Now, in the epigenetic world, we're not going to see changes immediately. And I want to introduce this window concept of opportunity. So this is the time that we can still influence the expression of our genes in our favor. So, in other words, if I do everything correctly today, I cannot expect perfect health tomorrow. Why? Because the gene expression takes time. And because of that, there's an opportunity that we have to prevent chronic diseases. For example, if we consider this as year zero, there are going to be pathways of or families of genes that are being expressed that are going to take us to a specific route. Now, symptoms or a diagnosis may come 20 years from now, but epigenetics testing specifically is now giving us the opportunity to learn those signals. And I'm going to share with you my personal journey as an example for you to understand the power of this testing. Molecular drivers begin decades early. Gene expression shifts before symptoms and even before you get markers in your blood that are out of range. So 20 years average allows us decisive action. We can course correct. That's a good news. Now, how do we measure what's coming up? Conventionally, we would test in blood the usual markers. And the analogy that I usually use to explain this, like you're driving and before you do a reverse, you look at your rear view mirror and you look around and you say, okay, I'm safe, I can do that, right? But there are blind spots. There are areas that you don't see. And that's where epigenetic testing comes. Epigenetic information brings you information that it's gonna open. It's like the bird's eye view in your car that captures the whole 360 situation around you. So it will not just grab things that are behind you in your past in terms of your health history, but it will project what's going to happen in your health, specifically with your health span, unless you change your lifestyle now. So that's why it's very cool that we have access to this. And I'm so excited to talk about this because in my lifetime it's happening. We can finally measure at a molecular level the impact of our decisions. So here I'm showing here results for 2 of the epigenetic testing that I took. So in this color you see here like in beige, that was test number 1. And it's below 0 because, for example, all these chronic diseases show to me that I had negative risks. So for example, let's take type 2 diabetes. I had minus 15% to develop that. When they compare my DNA methylation with other females my chronological age. But then I took care of my mindset. I did a program because back then I was trying to find a program to basically train the mindset so that my clients would not revert back to their previous habits. So I was testing and I tried this program for mindset training. So I did it myself. And when I took the test again after completing the training, I reduced even more. So even that you see here there is an increment, it's negative. So from minus 15, it went to minus 30, which means that I reduced in half my risk to develop type 2 diabetes just by one intervention. The only thing I changed was the mindset training. And then also the other chronic diseases change. And here's in this graph, I'm showing a few parameters. It's called epigenetic biomarker proxies that correlate with what are the things that makes you age faster than you should. So these are parameters that show up. And for example, I don't want to go into details, but the system will trigger a flag if the data is even above 80% or below 20%. So this yellowish area in the middle is what we want, the healthy mid-range. So I took the test and these are my personal numbers. One of the parameters that came really high was my hemoglobin A1C. That is a marker for insulin resistance. But in that precise moment, I took my lab work and in blood, it was normal. So in this example, you can see the mirror, the rear view mirror was my lab work perfectly in normal ranges. But my bird view mirror was telling me, wait, you are actually activating genes, a pathway that is taking you to develop insulin resistance in your future. So you have to take care of that. And same with the others. So what I did during this time is I started using a continuous glucose monitor. I adapted my nutrition to avoid glucose spikes. I put a plan for me to, for example, this carotene dial. It's one of the markers for basically carotene in your diet. So I created a very personalized plan for me. And then when I took the same test again, I corrected all those parameters now in range. So they were not affecting my aging, my pace of aging, and all parameters that measures longevity. The way I use the epigenetic tool is for screening. So if something is triggering, if something is telling me, wait, your melody is kind of off here in this part of the whole song, then I go there and I improve and make it better. And here in this graph, you can see over the year, this is my chronological age. I'm 55 now, but my biological age is a decade younger. So as I'm taking the same test year after year or every 6 months, I can see that my pace of aging is staying the same, about 0.78, 0.75. What does it mean? Well, it means that if it was 1, I would be aging regularly. For each year, for every 12 months, I would age 12 months. But because my pace of aging is under 1, in 16 months, I only age 10 months. So if you think about that, it's like, what are the things you can do to slow your aging process? What are specifically the things that you need to change so that you can extend your health span and reduce your biological age? Because at the end, this is the number that tells you and compares. When they say, what are the risk factors for facing, let's say, the next COVID in this world? Is it smoking? Is it obesity? Or is it age? Age wins. And this biological age is the number, not our chronological. So the younger we can stay biologically, the stronger, the more resilience, and the longer our health span will be. Now I want to share that in my practice, I combine different streams of data. Why? Because sometimes, like the fable of the elephant, right? So blind people who are touching the tail will say, this is a rope. But then another one will say, no, this is a wall. But when we approach the same bio-individual person in that precise moment, we have different points of view of the same system. So I took a functional genetic test and I identified that I had the okay version for the ApoE SNP. However, if I would just take that test, I would say, oh, I'm okay, I don't have to do anything. But then epigenetics showed me that my A1C, as I just shared, was 98 percentile, right? So now combining these two, I'm like, wait a minute. A1C is a marker that tells me that I have a risk to develop diabetes type 2 in my future. Dementia is sometimes called diabetes type 3, right? So they all have the same common denominator, and it's metabolic health. So by correcting my metabolic health, I was able to reduce this. Now, the last blood test that I took is perfect, and epigenetically I corrected. So all of this just to share that sometimes one stream of data is not enough. Then I took my microbiome test because you probably heard about the gut-brain connection, and 90% of our serotonin is actually produced in our gut. And I had a SNP that had that pathway in my brain not very efficient. So after learning this, I was able to put together a plan, increase my fiber specifically to feed the bacteria that would produce the short fatty acid chain. Sorry about because I was trained in biochemistry in Spanish, so I have to translate in my mind. So I had to develop a plan to feed specifically these species that are the ones that are helping me to produce more serotonin and help with my brain health. And then another thing that I did when I started using the glucose monitor is that I noticed having glucose spikes not due to food only, but also when I got stressed, when I had an argument, a fight, a trigger, a moment that I was not feeling myself, I noticed that I would have a glucose spike. So real-time data really helped me to understand what was happening in my body at the moment. Another thing that I learned was that sleep, this represents the deep sleep stage, and how important was for me to recover. So once I identified all the things that were impacting my sleep, specifically in the deep stage, then I was able to sustain a healthy sleep routine, sleep hygiene, and protect that specific part of our sleep that it deals with the metabolic waste clearance. So in summary, I did 5 things, assessment or testing, to gather different information that served me to put together this plan of rejuvenation. For example, when I ran the genetic functional testing, I learned things like I have a fast COMT, which is one of the SNPs that is in charge of breaking down dopamine. What did I do with that information? Well, I learned that in nutrition, I could support that pathway by giving the compounds that are the main source of dopamine production in our health, in our brain. I had reduced BDNF release, which is something that makes our brain to grow healthy. And one of the healthiest and natural ways that we can grow that is through exercise, specifically through resistance training, weights. So those are just examples of things that tells you what to do to improve the health of your brain. And then, of course, stress. I still sustain the same practice that I learned when I took the test that I shared with you. That was 3 years ago. I still do that every single day. Epigenetics helped me to see what was coming up in my future, unless I would change things. So I am not currently using any health tracker because I don't like to have Bluetooth devices connected to me chronically. But I track my sleep the first week of each month, and I track my glucose every 3 months. A gut microbiome helped me to understand what type of flavonoids, what type of fiber I needed to incorporate in my diet consistently so that I could grow the good bacteria that is protecting my brain. Oops. Then the trackers, I just commented on that. And then mindset training. I learned that one of my main saboteurs is called the hypervigilant, which is the one that is the voice in your head that is telling you, oh, the worst thing will happen for any moment. I'm a mom of 3 teenagers. When my one of them is driving, I feel like, oh my gosh, something bad is going to happen. But because I did the mindset training, I now know that's just my hypervigilant overreacting, right? So now I have less stress in my life because I learned how to manage my mindset. And when I say lifestyle, let's talk a little bit about what it means. The science, all the papers demonstrate that there are 7 areas of our lifestyle that impact the gene expression. One is stress and emotional management, the way we cope with stress. And it's not the stress per se, it's the perception of stress. If you're dealing with a very difficult situation, but your mindset is positive, then the stress is really efficient in the sense that you're not creating unnecessary stress. And that's what I mean with stress and emotional management. Nutrition, of course, nutrition should be personalized. Not everything should work for everybody. Exercise and movement, the type of exercise is also specific for each person. Restorative sleep, environmental exposure. You may still use Windex at home, and that is not serving. That is actually affecting your gene expression without you even perceiving that. So clean our environment, pure water, pure air. Number 6, joy, connection, and purpose. Belong to a community, have groups, have friends. And then last but not least, the mindset. So these pillars are the core pillars of what we now call lifestyle medicine. And in my practice, I really base my whole rejuvenation plan on them, but that I add the mindset. In my experience, the mindset training is fundamental. So that's all I have to share with you today. The message I want to bring home is you inherit a quarter, just a little bit. The rest, you write it. It's up to you. Information is powerful. Now that we have technology, functional testing gives you awareness on what are the specific lifestyle choices we need to change. These are fundamental. Before you go into a hyperbaric chamber or any other biohacker trend, let's make sure we cover the fundamental. Number two, the intervention window remains open. So we have the power to change outcomes. And the time is now. The longer we wait to start changing our habits, the harder it will be and the longer it will take to get the results. Number three, we upgrade biology through choices. Every bite, every decision, every single thing, even the way of thinking is affecting gene expression. And last, choose presence at 100. That's my goal that I want to share with this audience. And beyond, we have testimonies from citizens from the blue zones who are thriving. They keep perfect health in their minds, in their bodies, and they enjoy life till the end. So healthy 100 and beyond, where health span, which is your time in optimal health, matches your lifespan. So I hope this was helpful. I hope I was able to inspire you and empower you to take action today.
Thank you so much, Maricel. I just want to comment, first of all, we really appreciate you being here. But I love the concept that you shared that the standard physical is really a window into the past. It's looking backwards, kind of in the rearview mirror. And epigenetics and the kinds of testing that you're talking about is a look into the future. We talk here a lot in the AmFast community about the fact that diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's generally start decades before the symptoms show up. So if you want to have the biggest impact possible and you want to prevent that, you've got to move upstream as much as possible. And I think you've really highlighted an additional tool and way of thinking about it that allows us to leave the sick care system and focus on being proactive and doing everything that we can to prevent these kinds of things so that, as you said in the end, that we have a health span that matches our lifespan and hopefully both take us to 100 and beyond. Very exciting. Well, there's been so much that we've talked about here, and it ties in so beautifully to other things that we talk about frequently in the AmFast community as far as lifestyle and epigenetic factors. So we just are really grateful that you would spend time to be here with us, Maricel. And if you're watching this on the replay, I hope it's been valuable to you and that you'll take advantage of this knowledge so that you can improve your health span and have a more fulfilling opportunity throughout the rest of your life to have a body that's meeting up with your desires and goals and dreams and what things you want to do to make a difference in the world for as long as we're all on this beautiful planet. Thank you for being here, and we'll go ahead and call that a wrap for another week.